sunrise. I've been asked about the cameras, software mounting solutions that I use for cameras on my Zero. So I'm going to get into that a little bit today and show you around that. The extent of my training in photography and videography extends to media electives that I took in high school. Just know that this is for me and it's not a professional endorsement of anything. It's just what I do as a side hobby to a side hobby to a side hobby to a side hobby. I guess the place to start is with the cameras that I use. I'm missing one. I need to go find that. Now that I have all of them assembled. First off, I don't have the latest, greatest, newest cameras. I'm not chasing that. It's not my interest. None of this is particularly new or special. Doing the rundown, we have this guy. This is a GoPro Hero Black 9. Will record in 4K. I get pretty good footage out of it. It does have an interesting charging quirk. When recording, consume the battery and then stop. Even if it's plugged in, the power source won't charge while it's recording, and while it's recording, it consumes from the battery. That's just something to be aware of on the 9. I don't know if that's a problem on the later ones. This is just a cheap knockoff GoPro remote. These are GoPro Sessions. I got these after they were discontinued. They only do 1080. I'm also not going to feel too bad if one of them gets stolen or breaks. So this is a Yi 4K video action camera. I bought it to compare to a previous GoPro that I had before the 9. It was a little bit better. Struggles tiny bit in low light, but otherwise it's a fairly solid, usable action camera. The Insta360 X3 I picked up in Japan a couple of years ago. The video I get out of it's okay. It's a little bit muddy, and it also depends on how you reframe and export video, which is another workflow step, which is kind of a pain in the butt. However, it's nice to be able to record everything that's going on around you all the time. This is the remote for it. The remote's actually pretty cool because it will do GPS tracks, which are then embedded into the video as a KML for extracting data, speed, altitude, direction, stuff like that. In terms of mounting, just standard clamps, RAM style clamps, and then I have these quick adapter plates. They're made by Ulanzi. I'm pretty invested in the quad lock system, so they have a really nice selfie stick tripod thing. That's in my camera bag. Of course, I also do a number of 3D printed mounts. This is actually designed for the base plate of the Ulanzi Claw, so that sits on the roll bar of the car. The mics on these cameras easily get overwhelmed by wind noise, and so it's easier just to use an external mic source. This is a Zoom H1 Essential sound recorder. I've used this for a couple of weeks now. I throw the dead cat on it, toss it in the car somewhere, records sound. It's really good sound. I think certainly better than what you're going to get out of the cameras, which will be blown out by wind noise. For recording like this, I picked up the Hollyland Lark setup, and that's what I'm using for the audio on this particular video. When you're doing sound external like this, there are a couple of ways you can do it. You can either plumb it directly into the camera, into a camera. That's a lot more setup. I just like to get the cameras going, set the recorder going, make a loud noise, a clap, something. That gives me an audio sync that I can use in post-processing. It's just way easier than trying to actually pump sound into everything. For mounting cameras on the car, there are a couple of ways that I do it. One is, of course, with the Ulanzi plate that I just mentioned. The other are RAM mounts. This is a 1-inch RAM ball. I just 3D printed it up, and I'm using it as part of the windscreen stanchion. Easy to put on the car, hides out of the way, doesn't look out of place. I do have a RAM mount on a 3D printed clamp on the roll bar here. And then of course we have the Ulanzi quick plate. So this is the Ulanzi claw setup that I was mentioning before. The base plate is attached to this 3D printed clamp. It sets the camera up in a repeatable orientation so that when I get out of the car, I can just come along, grab the camera, walk away from the car. And then when I come back to the car, I can just slap the camera back in place. I really like this setup. I'm going to buy more of these plates and bases. The shade for my instrument cluster has a camera mount on it. Pretty handy for putting one of the sessions in here facing backwards. I do that for in-car video. To get some more interesting shots with the Insta360, I also have this clamp set up with a selfie stick. So that covers the cameras that I use and how I mount things in the car. Next, I guess it's software and workflows.
For recording video, there are a few pieces of software that I use, primarily, mostly two. First and most important is Final Cut Pro. You can be as fancy or as not fancy as you want to be. I think the most advanced that I really get into is maybe some multi-cam recording tracks and a few transforms, but don't really do much with plugins, don't really do a whole lot. Like I said, it's super fancy with it. I'm editing this very video with it. When I'm done figuring out where I want things to land, I'll come over to Epidemic Sound and I will grab a track from here that I like that can have some music on in the background and not get a copyright strike from any of it. So it may or may not be worth it to you. I do it as a yearly subscription. Oh, here we go. Insta360 Studio. So 360 Studio is super useful for importing, reframing, and then exporting video out of a 360 video. We have video we can come and grab, see if there's something more interesting we want to look at, maybe set a keyframe. In this keyframe, maybe control how we want the video to look. Like I said, it's kind of nice to have this camera because you do get a 360-degree view of everything that's going on around you, and you can reframe as you want, zoom in, zoom out. Video quality does depend greatly on how much you zoom in and zoom out. Those are the software bits.